I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yes.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man. It's enough to get my room so I can ram his shit up, ram it up his ass. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Max B and Jim Jones used to be like blood brothers, locked in tight. But the moment Jim turned his back, everything flipped. That's when Max B morphed from his right-hand hitmaker into the worst nightmare Harlem could imagine.
So Jim Jones, compare the names. Look, Max Bigavel, Jim Jones. That don't even add up. That's not on my level, man.
From allegedly taking his girl, to wrecking his car, to sparking chaos in the streets just to get at him, Max wasn't holding back for nobody. Born Charlie Wingate in Harlem, New York, Max came straight out of the Abraham Lincoln housing projects, the center of real struggle and raw hustle. His life was shaped by pain and survival. With his mom caught up in addiction and prison time, it was his grandmother who stepped up and raised him strong. She tried to keep him steady, but the streets were always calling. Before he had the whole East Coast vibing to his wavy sound, young Charlie found his voice in the boys' choir of Harlem. That's where he built that smooth, melodic flow, the same style that made Max B unforgettable. But music couldn't mask the truth. By 18, he was already knee-deep in the wrong path. In 1997, Max B got caught up in a robbery case and ended up doing around 8 long years behind bars. But instead of breaking him, that time built him tougher. When he walked out in 2005, he wasn't the same man. He came back sharper, colder, and dripping with the kind of confidence you can't fake. That's when the world met Max Bigavelli, a name he built off the legends, Biggie Smalls, Machiavelli, Tupac, and Jigga. Max saw himself as the perfect mix of all four. The hypnotic flow, the pain, the prophecy, and the hustle all rolled into one.
Your name is Max B, aka Max Bigavel. We know Bigavel stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the
Big
name...
Jig and Machiavelli, baby.
Yeah.
Big Jig and Machiavelli.
When Max touched down, Harlem was on fire. The Diplomats had the city in a chokehold. Cameron and Jim Jones ran the streets like kings. Through Cam, Max got introduced to Jim, and not long after, he signed under Jim's Bird Gang label, linking with legendary producer Dame Grease. Their chemistry was instant, raw, and electric. In 2006, Max dropped his first mixtape, $1 Million Baby, and the streets went wild. His voice, his energy, that signature wave, it hit different. With stack bundles also in the mix, Jim Jones was sitting on pure gold. Max was the hidden weapon, dropping hooks and verses that made Jim's tracks sound like anthems. Songs like Baby Girl became street classics, and everything Max touched turned into pure fire. No matter how hot the music got, Max could never fully escape the streets. In September 2006, everything flipped for real. Word came to Max through his ex, Gina Conway, about a flashy guy named Alan J. Plowden, a big spender caught up in a mortgage and mail fraud hustle, always flexing with cash and luxury rides. Gina told Max all about him, and allegedly, that mix of jealousy and hunger started stirring. She claimed Max hinted they could hit a lick and come up big, and that he'd make sure everyone got paid.
Boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max B, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out to this man, Calvin Leardom.
What happened next is still argued to this day, but one thing's clear, it ended bad. Max wasn't physically there when it went down, but prosecutors painted him as the mastermind behind it all. Gina, who was juggling, dealing, and stripping at the time, testified that Max sent her and his stepbrother, Kelvin Leardom Sims, to rob Plowden at a Holiday Inn in New Jersey. The plan was supposed to be quick, break in while he was out partying, grab the cash, and dip, but things got messy real fast. Gina and Sims reportedly got lost for hours, missing exits, wasting time, until they finally reached the spot. By then, Plowden was already back, asleep beside another woman. Out of nowhere, a man named David Taylor walked in. He wasn't part of the setup. Sims panicked and fired, ending Taylor's life instantly. That one move turned a robbery into a murder case.
It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 227.
Gina was the first to crumble. Once police caught her, she told everything to save herself. She gave up a 169-page statement and put all the blame on Max. Gina, named Max, is the one who set everything in motion. She claimed he promised her everything, money, loyalty forever, if she played her part. When the feds came knocking, they came with full force. Max got hit with heavy charges, including felony murder, and his bail was slapped at a wild $2 million. Sitting in that cold jail cell, time froze for Max. But out in the world, everything kept moving. Jim Jones, the same man who signed Max and called him family, suddenly blew up. He dropped "We Fly High," Ballin', and the track took over the world. It was everywhere, blasting from every car and every club. But here's where things got messy. Max claimed he wrote it. He said he ghost wrote that song and most of Jim's biggest hits. While Jim was counting money and doing interviews, Max was sitting behind bars, fighting for his life, his name, and his place in the game. After 10 long months, Max's bail got dropped to $90,000. That's when Jim stepped in, but not in the way a brother should. Instead of pulling Max out of loyalty, reports say he used it as leverage. Jim allegedly agreed to post bail only if Max signed over his publishing rights and locked himself into a 6-album deal under him. Desperate and stuck behind bars, Max had no real choice. He signed. Jim walked away owning the wavy sound, and Max walked out of jail in July 2007. Free, but not truly free. A changed man, colder, sharper, and carrying a whole new kind of anger. He came out broke, betrayed, and stuck to a deal that gave away his future publishing to a guy who cleaned up while Max fell apart. Jim Jones, the same man Max once called brother, watched as Max sat in a cell, and Jim's influence only grew on the streets.
Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yes.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
As mixtapes and street DVDs replayed Jim's name like a legend, and as fans started chanting "Wavy," the truth set in. Max wasn't getting his due. If Jim Jones wasn't going to put him on, Max was done staying quiet and playing cool. He was ready to go to war. He had every reason to feel robbed. This wasn't just being shut out of the game. It was straight up financial robbery. Jones owned Max's whole publishing, every hook, every melodic ad-lib, every catchy line, and Jim cashed in on it all. But it wasn't only business. The friendship was ruined and loyalty was broken, leaving Max cold and plotting revenge. So Max walked away from Bird Gang with a plan. If Jim Jones wouldn't pay him what he deserved, Max vowed to drag him down in public. Nothing was off the table. Soon enough, he linked up with French Montana, who at the time was just grinding. Not the chart-topping star he'd become later, he was coming for everything. French Montana was a raw street figure, known for his Cocaine City DVD series, gritty tapes that showed real Bronx life with no filters. He already had tension with Jim Jones after rumors spread that Jim was talking down on him following a shooting incident. So when French and Max finally linked up, it wasn't just music, it was war, a brotherhood built on revenge and shared enemies. They called their crew Coke Wave, and it turned into one of the wildest, most legendary street movements in mixtape history. Max already knew the industry wasn't going to save him. He didn't own his publishing, had no label pushing him, but he still had the voice the streets couldn't ignore and a gift for turning pain into sound. So he did what real hustlers do when the game locks them out. He went underground. Max started flooding the streets with free music, letting the people hear what labels tried to bury. But he wasn't just releasing songs, he was throwing lyrical grenades at Jim Jones and everyone tied to him. He let it all fly. No filter, no fear. The first shot, a mixtape called Public Domain 3. The cover alone spoke volumes. Max standing in a graveyard beside tombstones labeled Millie, Jim Jones, and Vanilli Joel Santana. It was a direct hit, calling them out as Milli Vanilli wannabes, fake, and riding off the sound he built. Max made it clear he was the wave and they were just surfing on it. Max didn't just clown Jim Jones, he torched him. He dropped tracks like Lipsy Rapping and I Know Them Dudes Need Me, throwing lyrical jabs left and right. I was giving them the loots, but them dudes done blew it. He mocked their whole movement, showing zero fear, but Max didn't stop at the music. He went straight for reputations, personal lives, and the entire image Jim Jones had built. One of the wildest moments in their beef came when Max dropped the ruthless diss track, She Touched It in Miami. In it, he made shocking claims about Jim's longtime girlfriend, Chrissy Lampkin, saying she had been with him in ways that crossed all lines. Max laughed through the bars, painting Jim as a man clowned by his own circle, and the streets ate it up.
Banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram it up, ram it up in. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab it. So when he came in the window, I punched him in his face.
It was messy, scandalous, and unforgettable. Jim Jones was blindsided. He didn't see it coming. He tried denying everything, tried brushing off Max as some washed-up artist who never blew up. He even claimed Max didn't write We Fly High, his biggest record ever, but fans weren't buying that for a second. Max's vocals were clearly heard on the early reference tracks, and people started asking real questions about Jim's true role in Dipset's legacy. Max wasn't just talking, he was moving like he wanted smoke for real. He claimed that one day Jim tried to set him up in a parking lot, blocking his car to trap him in. But Max said he saw it coming. He rammed Jim's Bentley out of the way and even threw a few punches before speeding off. The war between them wasn't just lyrical anymore, it was personal. It sounded crazy, but Max loved it. He proudly showed off the dents in his car like they were trophies of war. French Montana and others even backed up his story, and soon the legend only got louder. Then came November 2008, when Max and French decided to confront Jim Jones face to face. They pulled up deep in Manhattan, walked straight into the building where Jim was recording, and made it crystal clear. The streets weren't safe for Jones anymore. Max later claimed that Jim panicked when things got real and called the cops. That move only made things worse for Jim's image. It made him look soft in the eyes of the streets. Around that same time, both of their crews ended up colliding at a Brooklyn club, and all chaos broke loose. Chairs flying, people running, police and K9 units storming in. It felt like a full-blown movie scene, but it was real life, and the tension was explosive. By the time the smoke settled, Max had done way more than just diss Jim Jones. He had humiliated him. Max B turned into a street legend, a cult hero who didn't need a label or approval to make noise. Even while trapped in contracts that gave him nothing, he made himself unstoppable, flooding the streets with raw music that still echoes today. But while his feud with Jim Jones was blazing through the mixtape circuit, Max was about to face something way bigger, the biggest fight of his entire life. Max B was staring down a criminal trial that could bury his whole wave in concrete. On June 9, 2009, he walked into the Bergen County Courthouse like a man who still believed in his story, calm, confident, and with that same smooth swagger that made him famous. Cameras were flashing, his people were behind him, and his legal team was talking like they already had the win in the bag. His lawyers claimed they tore apart the prosecution's main witness during cross-examination, none other than Gina Conway, the woman at the center of it all. Gina had turned herself in and cut a deal, testifying against Max and his stepbrother, Kelvin Leardom Sims, for a lighter sentence. Max's attorney said Gina was just bitter, twisting the truth to save herself, painting her as a scorned ex who'd do anything to walk free.
Right around that time, Max B gets found guilty on 9 of 11 counts, including felony murder. And he gets sentenced to, was it 75 years?
Yeah, 75.
But courtrooms don't run on street logic. You can't win with swagger alone. When the jury came back with the verdict, everything Max believed about loyalty, street code, and redemption shattered in seconds. Max B was found guilty on 9 out of 11 counts. armed robbery, conspiracy, aggravated assault, and felony murder. The prosecutors painted him as the puppet master, claiming he planned it all, gave the orders, and sat back waiting to collect once the job was done. He wasn't there when the shots were fired, but they said it was his idea from the start, and the whole case rested on Gina Conway's word. Gina had cut her own deal with the feds. Her original murder charges were dropped down to armed robbery and manslaughter, and in return for testifying, she got a recommended 18-year sentence. Max's defense team fought back hard, saying Gina twisted the whole story just to save herself. In a shocking twist, Gina even told the court that Max didn't know about any robbery, claiming she used his name to convince her boyfriend Kelvin to go along with it. The defense argued she only flipped on Max later, out of heartbreak and self-interest, painting him as the mastermind to buy herself leniency, but the jury didn't believe it for a second. They were already sold on the prosecution's version. On September 3rd, 2009, Max B was sentenced to 75 years in prison, eligible for parole in 2042. Just like that, the man who had Harlem buzzing turned into inmate number, gone overnight. The streets were heartbroken, fans stunned, but in the business world, Jim Jones looked like he'd played his final move perfectly. With Max behind bars and silenced, Jones still held control over all of Max's publishing. Every hook, every melody, every bar that had made people shout, "Wavy," still paid Jim. He was cashing in on the very sound Max built from the ground up. And to make it worse, Jim even started mocking Max publicly, acting like he'd won for good while the Wave's creator sat behind prison walls. Every chance Jim Jones got, he threw shade at Max, calling him goofy names, downplaying his legacy, and pushing the story that Max was washed before he ever got started. In every interview, Jones acted like he'd moved on, treating Max like some old product collecting dust on the shelf, something he once used but would never pick up again. But what Jones didn't realize was that the wave couldn't be stopped that easily. Even from behind bars, Max B wasn't done, not by a long shot. The streets still had deep love for him, and his name carried too much weight to fade away. Max kept in touch with French Montana, DJs, and even small indie labels, keeping his presence alive through letters, phone calls, and the loyalty of fans who refused to forget him.
Originally, you were sentenced to 75 years. But then last July, you said you got reduced to 20 years and then to 12 years.
Then came May 2010, the moment that flipped the power balance. A judge ruled that Jim Jones no longer had control over Max B's music career. The court found that Max had fulfilled the terms of both contracts he'd signed with Jim back in 2005 and 2007. In simple words, Max was free. Free from the paper chains that once tied his art and money to another man's pockets. He was still locked up physically, but artistically, he had broken loose. Soon after, he dropped his long-awaited album Vigilante Season in 2011. And if anyone still doubted Max's impact, that record proved the wave was still alive. The streets had spoken. Max B's wavy flow, that smooth melodic gangster sound he pioneered, had become the secret formula for an entire new generation of rappers. You couldn't turn on the radio without hearing bits of Max's influence, in their cadence, in their harmonies, in the talk of waves, vibes, and freedom. His style had quietly shaped the whole culture. Then came the unbelievable twist in 2016, the kind nobody saw coming. After serving 7 years, Max's new legal team dropped a bombshell. They claimed his original lawyer had failed him completely. Not because he couldn't defend him, but because he was allegedly chasing money and hoping to cash in on Max's rap career if he beat the case. That legal move, known as post-conviction relief, actually worked. The judge vacated Max's original 75-year sentence, shocking everyone. Max later took a plea deal, pleading guilty to aggravated manslaughter. That deal chopped 55 years off his time, cutting it down to 20, then to just 12 years. And since Max had already served a big chunk by that point, it meant one thing: he was finally getting out. The wave wasn't dying in prison after all. Max B's official release date was set for November 9th, 2025, the day Harlem's waviest icon was finally coming home. By the time 2025 rolled around, Max B wasn't just a rapper anymore. He was a myth. His influence stretched everywhere, from underground freestyles to Kanye West's star-packed albums. Kanye even tried to name his 2016 album Waves, but the Wave community shut that down quick until he publicly gave Max his credit. Kanye later featured Max's voice on a record, solidifying his respect. Drake, Wiz Khalifa, and plenty more all said Max inspired them. His sound, his swagger, his freedom. Even Jim Jones, in one rare moment of honesty, admitted that Max B could have been bigger than Drake if prison hadn't stopped him. That's how deep Max's legacy runs. Even his rivals couldn't deny it. Now with 2025 here, a heavy question hangs in the air. Are Max and Jim still enemies, or is it finally over? From prison, Max spoke like a changed man, calmer, wiser, and focused on life outside the walls. He said he's a husband, a father of 4, and that the old anger is gone, replaced with peace and perspective. He even hinted that he might let the past rest for good. But Jim Jones, he wasn't ready for that chapter. By 2023, he and French Montana had squashed their beef and even dropped music together again. But when it came to Max, Jim made it clear it was still complicated. He said he didn't wish Max harm, but he wasn't about to get cozy either. The story of Max B, the man who turned pain into waves, still isn't over. So before you go, make sure to subscribe to Dripzine, like, comment, and share this video. And click hype this video to help us reach even more people.